What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. I'm Michigan Sports Talk here. In this one, we go over the key takeaways from Michigan's 24-13 loss at Oklahoma, as we go over Michigan's offensive struggles. Should we be in panic mode about this Michigan offense? We also go over one position group that I am very concerned coming out of this game, and also where Michigan goes from here. And we also go over some key quotes post-game from some players and coaches here following the loss. So let's go ahead and get right into it here. It was an ugly loss for the Wolverines, 24-13. Michigan's offense could not get anything going. Bryce Underwood finished 9 of 24 for 142 yards. Now, granted, he didn't have any turnovers, no interceptions, and Michigan as a whole didn't turn the ball over. And Michigan did win the turnover battle. That was the one phase of the game they did win, but that was the only phase of the game that they beat Oklahoma in, and that was quite frankly the phase of the game that kept the Wolverines in this one. You know, John Mateer threw that interception to TJ Metcalf, who picked him off. Was a great interception there. Michigan unable to do anything with that turnover though, and then Oklahoma also muffed the punt. Michigan got the ball, didn't score a touchdown. They got a field goal out of it. Dominic Zavada also missed a field goal, in the first half. It was a chip shot, 32 yards, I believe. He's got to be able to make those. And Oklahoma also missed a field goal that kept Michigan in it and kept it a one-possession game in the fourth quarter. But again, this offense struggled for Michigan. Now, is the sky falling? No. I think a lot of people are definitely overreacting following this loss. This is probably the best defense you're going to be going up against all season long besides Ohio State, and most likely the best quarterback you're going to be going up against all season long out of John Mateer. Obviously, there's no excuses to this loss. There never is, when losing at Michigan, but true freshman quarterback on the road. We knew it was going to be tough for this offense, and it was going to be a defensive battle. It's exactly what we got. Obviously, we expected a lot more from this Michigan offense, though. And for me, more in particular, I expected a lot more in the running game and from the offensive line. Michigan could not run the ball at all game long, besides Justice Haynes' 75-yard touchdown run to begin the second half. That was the only really big explosive play in the running game, and really, the only time that Michigan had success running the ball. So you can say what you want about the wide receivers, the tight ends, Bryce Underwood's play, but when it comes down to it, it was the offensive line. Again, Michigan couldn't run the ball at all game long. Oklahoma's defense, you got to give a lot of credit to Oklahoma's defense. It was a great game by them. They opened up no holes. Michigan's offensive line for the running game, and then also Bryce Underwood was pressured a lot in this game. So again, the wide receivers, tight ends, you could say what you want about them, but that is not Michigan's major concern right now. For me, it's the offensive line. We saw Giovanni El-Hadi go down with a lower body injury, which is definitely not good news. One of Michigan's best players on the offensive line, and he was reportedly in a boot post-game, so that's definitely not good news for the Wolverines. We'll obviously see and find out more on that later. But, Nathan Afobe, Lawrence Tatar, and then also Blake Frazier got some playing time in this one, especially when Michigan had to put in extra offensive linemen, but it was not working. Underwood, he started out 4 for 5 passing against Oklahoma and Brent Venables' aggressive defense, but then he went obviously 9 for 24 for 142 yards, no touchdowns. Again, no interceptions. He protected the football good, but after that 4 for 5 start, he went 0 for 8 on completions against the blitz after that. So you already know what opposing defensive coordinators are going to do going forward. It's Michigan's offensive line's job to help protect Underwood. And Underwood, had some miscommunication, especially some throws to Donovan McCulley. But again, it was the pressure. He was getting pressured. He had to get rid of the ball and make a quick decision. There was one where Donovan McCulley had a great route. It was a slow developing route that he had, but he got open. It's just Underwood had to get rid of it, right away and threw it to the corner of the end zone while, McCulley went the other way and was wide open. He didn't have time to see that, let the route develop and throw that ball in there for a touchdown. So, and before we do go ahead and continue here, I want to talk about Sleeper, the best app for daily fantasy football. If you're not using it, you're missing out. NFL is back here today on on Sunday. Today I'm taking J.J. McCarthy, the free pick of 0.5 passing yards, and I'm also taking Jahmyr Gibbs anytime touchdowns of 0.5. Those are my picks today. Let me know what you guys think, and you can use promo code MST and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today, link in the description. But let's go ahead and continue here. Obviously, the offensive line has some time here still to gel this season. Hopefully they do. They got a lot to work on, a lot to fix, obviously. But again, credit to Oklahoma's defense. They had 1 sack in this one, 8 tackle for losses, and Oklahoma's defense, they just played better. You know, they tackled well. Michigan's defense had some pretty bad tackles in this one, and they also couldn't stop John Mateer. You know, Oklahoma didn't really run the ball that great with their running backs like we expected in this one, but it didn't matter because John Mateer had 19 carries for 74 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he also went 21 to 34 for 270 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So Oklahoma had the better defense in this one, they had the better quarterback in this one, and they had more experience in this game, and that clearly showed. I do think the defense definitely stepped it up though in the second half. You know, they were without Jashawn Barham. They also were without both Josiah Edmond and Shamari Earls at cornerback, and that obviously showed, you know, in this game. You know, at times they're playing freshman Jaden Sanders out there at cornerback. So the depth behind Zeke Berry and Jair Hill at cornerback is also a concern right now, especially with, you know, Shamari Earls, Josiah Edmond banged up right now. So that's going to be something to watch, that young cornerback room that Michigan has. But overall, I thought the defense did pretty good. You know, again, this is going to be one of the best quarterbacks and probably one of the best offenses they go up against all season, and definitely the best defense Michigan will face all season besides Ohio State. But that doesn't mean they don't have a lot to work on. They got a lot to fix. I just think it starts up front for the Wolverines, and they got out physicaled in this one. You saw it on that final drive by Oklahoma's offense. You know, again, the turnover battle kept Michigan in this. They had a chance to steal this win, and the score probably could have been worse than it was if Oklahoma didn't make those mistakes. But credit to Michigan, you know, for, you know, continuing to fight in the second half. They put themselves in a position somehow to make it 1 possession and potentially, you know, take this win, but offense could not get it going at all. The offensive line played horrible, and that's something that Michigan's going to have to work on and fix, and Sherrone Moore definitely knows that. This whole coaching staff definitely knows that. And another thing, Chip Lindsey, this offense has got to open it up for Bryce Underwood at some point. If they want this offense to succeed this season, you can't be scared, you know, with putting the ball in true freshman quarterback Bryce Underwood's hands. You gotta let him sling that thing. You know, this isn't Davis Warren at quarterback anymore. This is 5-star true freshman, generational talent Bryce Underwood we're talking about right here. But I also get where they were coming from with some of those play calls. Yes, they were bad, but again, Oklahoma's defense was getting pressure on Underwood every single play. So they were trying to run the ball. They were trying to take the pressure off Underwood, but they also couldn't run the ball. It was just a bad recipe for this Michigan offense. They couldn't run the ball, and they were getting pressure on Underwood every single play. So you know, overall, got to give credit again to Oklahoma's defense, to John Mateer. They played a heck of a game. But now we're going to see how this team responds, how these players respond to this loss, and also how Underwood, how this offense responds, because we better not see this offense perform this bad the rest of the season. This was the only game, and this should be the only game they perform this way this season, because if it looks like this again, you know, at some point this season, which it might, you know, for a little bit in the first half or something on the road, they might be trailing here and there because they do got a lot of road games, but, you know, it can't look this bad for the rest of the season, in my opinion. You know, this was the one game where you could go, okay, true freshman quarterback on the road, second game of the season. It's very early in the season right now, and you're going up against, you know, one of the best defenses in college football out of Oklahoma, and one of the best defenses you're going to face all season. So, you know, I wouldn't put this offense, you know, I wouldn't say we're in panic mode with this Michigan offense right now, but if they come out looking like this, you know, I'm sure they'll handle business against Central Michigan. They'll look good and all that, but if they look like this against Nebraska, you know, that can't happen. I know we're going to be without Sherrone Moore, which, again, this 2-week stretch without Sherrone Moore coming up is going to be huge for this team, but we got to see how they respond now. But some quotes post-game here. Max Bredesen first said, nobody's happy after a loss, but you guys heard I gotta live with Bryce for 30 days in a hotel. You can see the deep drive for stuff like this. This hurts everybody. Nobody wants to lose, but you can see there's a real energy, there's a real savage mentality in there that I'm excited to see what happens. Sherrone Moore said that, as far as handling the crowd noise, atmosphere, all that, he handled it fine on, speaking on Underwood, handling the noise, but, it was just the execution, and that's everybody. It's not just him. I think everybody wants to put the pressure on him, but we've all got to do our jobs. That's O-line, receivers, running backs, whoever it is in those situations to make it easier for them. And, also when you get behind, you make second and long, third and long, it's just harder to convert. And when you're in those situations, it's harder on third down to really convert to get that first down. That was part of it. But again, it all comes down to execution. That was one thing Michigan struggled in this one as well. Third down efficiency was huge. Oklahoma went 9 of 17. Michigan just 3 of 14. So that's something they got to fix. And again, it was a lot of the time, I just feel like they weren't trusting Bryce Underwood enough to make a play and throw the ball and even use his legs. They got to start doing that more again if they want this offense to reach its peak. Underwood has got to get loose, and you got to let Underwood loose, use his legs, and start letting him sling the ball more. Sherrone Moore said, I thought on defense the adjustments in the second half were really good, but we've got to tackle better on defense. I thought there were some missed tackles we made, and there were a lot of those, especially one where John Mateer got out of a sack, threw the ball downfield. That was a big turning point in that game. Could have been huge to stop him on third down there. And then Max Bredesen, we said we have to establish the run game, especially with a young quarterback, but we don't really think about him as a young guy. But yeah, we have to chip away at those jab type of runs. We have to get back to those. So that's what Sherrone Moore, Max Bredesen said post-game, but a lot this team has to work on. We're going to find out a lot more about this team, how they bounce back from this loss now. And it's going to be a big 2-week stretch here, especially with, Sherrone Moore's 2-game suspension coming up. So we're going to find a lot more about this team here in this 2-week stretch. But with that, that's going to wrap up this video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure to go ahead, drop a like, comment down below, and subscribe for more. If you are new around here, I greatly appreciate it. And other than that, we will see you guys in the next video. Go Blue.